Let's get to the chase. Your brain isn't a villain, but it is a master of subtle sabotage. From indecision to lingering heartaches, these 8 psychology facts reveal the hidden wiring behind your daily struggles and why you do the things you do. Number 1. Loneliness literally hurts. Like, actually hurts. Here's something that should make you feel slightly better about crying over a breakup at 2 a.m. You're not being dramatic. You're being biological. Your brain has no idea how to tell the difference between emotional pain and physical pain. fMRI studies show that social rejection, being ghosted, being dumped, being left out of a group chat you didn't even want to be in, activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the exact same region that fires when you stub your toe or break your arm. So that heavy, hollow feeling in your chest after someone walks out, or that weird ache you get when you feel completely invisible in a room full of people, that's not a metaphor. That's a genuine wound, which means you're allowed to treat it like one. Rest, time, and a little patience with yourself. Number 2, you have a dark side, and it's quietly running the show. Carl Jung had this idea called the shadow. And I know that sounds like something from a fantasy novel, but stay with me. The shadow is every part of yourself you've decided is unacceptable. The jealousy you feel when a friend succeeds, the anger that comes out of nowhere, the pettiness, the insecurity, the laziness, all the stuff you'd never admit to at a dinner party, or even to yourself. So what do? You shove it down, deep into the unconscious, out of sight. Except it doesn't stay there. It leaks as sudden, disproportionate anger over something small, like snapping at someone because they chewed too loudly, when the real issue is something completely different, or as self-sabotage, getting close to something good and then somehow managing to ruin it. The moment you stop fighting your shadow and start actually looking at it is the moment it loses its power over you. Number 3. Having too many options is making you miserable. We've been sold a lie that more choice equals more freedom equals more happiness. It sounds right, it feels right, it is completely wrong. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called it the paradox of choice. When you open a streaming platform and there are 10,000 things to watch, your brain doesn't feel free, it panics. When you're on a dating app swiping through hundreds of people, you don't feel hopeful, you feel exhausted. Because with 50 options, the fear of picking the wrong one becomes paralyzing. So you either freeze and pick nothing, or you pick something and spend the rest of the time wondering if one of the other 49 would have been better. Sound familiar? Limitation isn't a cage. Sometimes it's the most liberating thing in the world. Number 4, part of you wants to watch it all burn. Okay, this one is a little unsettling, but I promise it's going to sound familiar. Freud noticed something strange about human behavior. We don't just chase pleasure and comfort, we also, quietly, unconsciously, chase destruction. He called it thanatos, the death drive, this pull toward chaos, toward undoing ourselves, toward things we know are bad for us. Think about the last time you stayed up until 3 a.m. scrolling your phone, knowing you had to be up at 7 and kept going anyway. Or think about that one person you kept going back to, even though every single time ended the same way. Or eating the entire thing when you'd already decided not to. That wasn't stupidity, that wasn't weakness. That was thanatos quietly whispering in your ear. Knowing it exists doesn't fix everything, but it does mean you can start noticing it before it steers you off a cliff. Number 5, the smartest people in the room feel like frauds. Here's the cruel irony of being competent at something. The better you get, the more convinced you become that you're somehow faking it. It's called imposter syndrome, and it hits the most capable people hardest. The ones who know enough to understand just how much they still don't know. A doctor who's been practicing for 20 years and still worries before a difficult case. A writer who finishes a book and immediately thinks this is terrible and everyone will find out.
a student who aced the exam and spends the next week waiting for someone to tell them it was a mistake. Meanwhile, and this is the really fun part, the Dunning-Kruger effect shows that people with very little knowledge or skill tend to be wildly overconfident. They don't know enough to realize what they're missing. So the least qualified people walk in like they own the place, and the most qualified stand in the corner quietly panicking. If you feel like a fraud most of the time, you're probably doing just fine. Number 6. The things that annoy you most about others are about you. This is the one people really don't like hearing, but here it is. Psychological projection is when you take a trait you can't stand in yourself, something you've buried or refused to look at, and you start seeing it everywhere else instead. You don't recognize it in yourself, so you recognize it loudly in everyone around you.
The person who accuses everyone of being selfish, often carrying a lot of guilt about their own selfishness. The one who calls everyone fake, usually deeply uncomfortable with the masks they wear themselves. The one who can't stop talking about how arrogant so-and-so is. Look, not every criticism is projection. Sometimes people are just genuinely annoying. But when a reaction feels personal, when something someone does gets under your skin in a way that seems out of proportion, that's worth sitting with. The world around you has a strange habit of mirroring what's going on inside you, which is either a very useful insight or deeply inconvenient depending on the day. Number 7. No one is going to help because everyone thinks someone else will. Picture this. Someone collapses in the middle of a busy street. 50 people are around. People slow down, glance, keep walking. A few pull out their phones, maybe to call for help, maybe just to look. Almost no one actually stops. This is the bystander effect, and it's one of the most uncomfortable findings in social psychology. The more people present during an emergency, the less likely any individual is to help, because everyone assumes someone else will handle it. Responsibility gets spread so thin across the crowd that it disappears entirely. It's not that people are evil, it's that our individual sense of responsibility quietly switches off the moment we're part of a group. We outsource our conscience to the crowd, and the crowd doesn't have one. Here's the practical part. If you're ever in trouble, don't shout, "Somebody help!" It won't work. Instead, pick one specific person, look them directly in the eyes, and say, "You call an ambulance." The moment it becomes personal, everything changes. Number 8. You don't need happiness. You need a reason. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz. He watched people die around him, not just from violence or starvation, but from something quieter, the loss of any reason to keep going. And what he noticed was that the people who survived weren't always the physically strongest. They were the ones who still had something to live for, a person to get back to, a book to finish writing, a promise they'd made. His conclusion, which he wrote about in Man's Search for Meaning, was this: a human being can endure almost any amount of suffering if they have a strong enough why. And here's what that means for the rest of us, living far more comfortable lives. Chasing happiness as a goal is one of the fastest ways to feel empty. Happiness isn't something you pursue, it's something that shows up as a side effect of doing things that matter to you. A meaningful project, a relationship you invest in, work that feels like it counts for something. Stop asking, "Am I happy?" Start asking, "Does this mean something to me?" The second question will take you much further.